very good evening and welcome to KTN's Job Center. My name is Abi Agina, and today on Job Center we'll be discussing about the whole business of language translation. And joining me in studio is Kenneth Mwakundia, the Managing Director of Ken & Associates. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's just get straight into the interview. A lot of people know very well that the language translation niche is a very niche-centered market. And are there opportunities in this particular line?
Yes, we have enormous opportunities, especially, as you know, these days there's been a lot of conference tourism. That means like we've been having a lot of, let's say, so many conferences like in Nairobi. Now, the biggest barrier when you bring international guests is communication. So we are there to bridge the gap in terms of communication. Yes.
So being someone who has been in this industry, a lot of young people are pursuing various courses in the line of languages. What should one need to have for you to join this industry and also to actually progress and become successful, as I believe you are?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, you must have the passion for the language. Let's say you have to know more than French, let's say more than English, you have to know French, let's say German, Spanish, or any other foreign language. That means that you have to know those languages perfectly well for you to be able to communicate. Because as you know, we have different topics being discussed in different conferences. For example, people can talk about health, people can talk about statistics, people can talk about HIV/AIDS. In that case, then, first of all, you really have to master the language. Yes.
Mastery of the language.
Yes.
And for you to also get a big break in this particular line, looking at the whole industry as a whole, I would want to believe that it's still under-tapped, because a lot of times when we have delegations coming over, there's a shortage of, as we were chatting a bit earlier, that there's a shortage actually of translators.
That's very true. It is because perhaps, let's say, most people don't find this maybe as an area which is maybe profitable. Some people could have done maybe foreign languages, but maybe they've just mastered the basics. They haven't gone further, like to develop such a language to be capable of communicating. Let's say in an international conference, you need to be perfect, you need to be so fluent and all that kind of thing. That's why. Yes.
And also, in line with handling these conferences,
yes.
How does one get to be able to get into handling such a conference? Like, I'm a young person, I've done maybe French and let's say German.
Yes.
And I want to package myself to be able to take these opportunities. What do I need to do? How do I link up with people?
Thank you. First of all, you have to, once you prove that you're good and you have the passion, you have to get in touch with what is known as the event organizers or conference organizers. In that case, then, maybe you could be given a chance. Let's say you can be trained on the job if you already have the language, you've mastered the language. In that case, then, if you're able to communicate somehow, maybe we can see what kind of meeting we can give you, and then like that, maybe you can somehow enter into the industry.
You talked about profitability. Is it a career that you can be able to make your ends meet once you start it?
Extremely. I don't want to go so much into details of financials, but you see, the rates are fixed internationally. Let's say on average per day, you can charge as much as $500 US. So maybe you can do your maths at an exchange rate of, let's say, 90. Yeah, so to some extent, it's a very good business. But only if you're good. You have to be good professionally. Yes. Otherwise, because when delegates come, they expect a lot from you. You can imagine the people who have paid their air tickets to come all the way. They are relying on you for them to be able to communicate. So in other words, you have to deliver.
Talk to us about this particular niche market, because is it an area that we are seeing, is it growing? Are we seeing more people coming into this sector?
The sector is growing, because initially most people were not aware of it. But currently, there are so many people, we have so many agencies, people are opening companies who sometimes, most of them are not necessarily interpreters or translators, but they have seen the demand. As I've told you, there's a lot of growth in terms of conference tourism. So to some extent, so many people have been motivated to join the industry. I could tell you for a fact the industry is growing.
The industry is growing.
Yes.
And last question as we come to an end.
Yes.
also, particular interest has been growing in the line of translation. Are there specific languages that you feel there are gaps that people can be able to go into so that they can be able to have a good return on their investment? And also, if you could also wind up and tell us about, you do a lot of these events. How has been the kind of business as you handle your business?
Okay, you talked about the languages. Currently, the most common language used is mostly French, English. But of course, there are cases where we get orders for Spanish and Portuguese as well, and even Arabic. And of late also, because we've been doing a lot of business with China, also Chinese has also been in demand as well. Yes.
What would be your closing thoughts? Is there a future in language translation?
My closing thoughts, I would say there's enormous future. The industry is growing, and we would like as many people as possible to be motivated and join. As you can see, sometimes we have a lot of demand and we don't have the capacity. Let's say we don't have people who are competent, especially whenever we have big conferences in Nairobi and even beyond.
Well, that's a good place to end it. Thank you for making time to be with us on Job Center.
My pleasure.
And we've been speaking to Kenneth Mwakundia, the Managing Director of Ken and Associates, just sharing with us the sector, how it looks like about language translation, and indeed there are opportunities. Well, that brings us to the end of Job Center. Coming up next is Business News.